Oh, bye, bye, bye.
Hi, boy.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, going okay, mate. A little bit weary, but I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah, me too. To be honest,
Big weekend.
big weekend. What were you doing?
Oh, I'm putting in a automated irrigation system in the nursery.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Just finished like half hour ago.
that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, we have been going flat out since Friday, really.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway,
Uh,
pretty much
so,
finished that part of it.
well, should we get straight down? Actually, let me let these two out. Do you want to start and let me give you the screen a moment.
Sure.
Um, and then I'll come back and actually no, let's get started. Let's get started. They're not quite ready yet. Um, so do you want to start with the euro? Let's start with the euro
Yep.
or any other TA, and then if I can take over in about 15 minutes and just quickly whip around the footsie and see what we're looking for, and then we'll be ready for the day.
Whenever you're ready, mate.
Yep, you
Uh,
should have the screen.
coming, coming to me now. Got me?
Yep, we gotcha.
Okay, happy days. So let's take a look at the euro and see what is going on. Well, when I look at the bigger picture on the euro, it's a whole lot of nothing. And we've had a whole lot of nothing, frankly, since probably end of May or beginning, yeah, end of May here, where we've hit this level, which is around about there
Oh
ish.
yeah, that's an interesting level.
Yeah. And look where we're approaching pretty much now. That's what I'm seeing on the euro. Impossible to miss, I suppose. And we said this, we spoke about it last week when the interest rates were due to rise in the States and subsequently did, of course.
Hmm.
And it was kind of impossible not to be thinking short the majors against the
Hmm.
dollar. And
Hmm.
certainly we're seeing that Aussie, Euro, Pound, and we'll take a look at those others in a minute. But the euro certainly is one of those. There were a few ways that you could have traded this if you wanted to. There's that beautiful little inverted hammer sitting there, suggesting that we were pretty much at the top of this range that we've been trading in since that time. There we are there. Uh, Pretty hard to miss, wasn't it? Really, at the end of the
Hmm.
day, when you look at it in those terms, and certainly we've rolled over since then. You can see that the pivots are coming down with us as well, and I'd be very very surprised if we don't test this level in the next, well, probably maybe even today. But one thing I would say is that we have again another major announcement at the end of the week. So if these moves are to continue, then I suggest that the first 3 days of the week will probably where you want to take advantage of that because things may change at the end of the week. So certainly I'd be thinking still bearish the euro. I can't see any way that I'm not looking at 115.30, maybe even 115 as well before this thing turns around. A little bit of a gap down, sorry, a little bit of a gap up this morning, as we can see.
Hmm.
That immediately. I haven't really had a good look at the charts yet, but or was there a gap up?
No, it looks like. I mean, yeah, there was a gap up actually, but it's failed, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's again. I just can't see this rallying at the moment. We've got to get through this level again, I suppose, in terms of support. But uh, if there's a trade to be had here today, it's only going to be short for me. So I'll be looking for that. I'll probably use a couple of lines to look at that. This is the 4 hour chart, of course. So I'll be looking for a play here, I suppose. The daily pivots in play. That's already had a test, so that's all looking good. When I say it's had a test, more so, I guess the daily pivots come to price than is the reverse.
Yeah.
And I'd be thinking maybe there's another little go here. So I might look to play off a resistance line if I can find one. There's obviously one through here. I can't see where the top of that candle is. Where is it? I still can't see the top of that candle.
If you hover the end of the line
The end
over
of
it,
the high.
if you actually grab the trend line.
116.16. Okay, that is the high of the candle.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll probably use this one up here. And swing down here.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
now looking likely. So I'll look to use that line, and I'll look to use it perhaps as a false break. So another test of the daily pivot here will get me interested short. So we'll keep our eye on that as the show goes on. Don't see anything else there on the euro that really gets me interested in the short term. Yes, we've got to get through that level, but if we can find a way to trade to that level and get profit in the bank before we hit it, then that's probably where I'm looking. Haven't really had a significant lower high since this one here, I suppose, which was really a triple top. So maybe there's retracement somewhere this week, but I definitely see this level and probably before the retracement. So I'll be thinking here and then maybe the retracement, which probably looking at around about this 116, high 16s, one high 16s, and that's pretty much where I see the euro in the next couple of days. Don't see the market moving too far before Friday in terms of out of this range that we've been trading in on the daily chart, as I say, since May. It's very pronounced, and we're getting near to the bottom of that. So I think that's where I'm at as far as the euro is concerned. We got into the pound late last week. Did we actually trade this in the show? I can't quite recall, Ash. We traded the pound short. We did trade pound yen.
Yes, you traded the pound yen. Yeah, traded the pound yen, not the pound dollar to memory. Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, we did talk about this. When did you get into this one?
I think I did, because I told you I was trading underneath. This was a daily candle, and I traded this candle here. I think we spoke about it. I don't know if we. Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure we actually placed the trade, and it hadn't triggered.
That's right.
Triggered on Friday.
Yeah, because we had the head and shoulders and the trend line. Yeah.
So I'm expecting that, and my profit level is around about here somewhere. So I'll be taking profit. I'll be taking profit if we hit there.
Nice.
So we are short that. I haven't really had a good look at it since opening. So I've been flat out again. Yeah, so that's why I've got that level there, because of this resistance and support. And DS1 is here as well, the first level of support from a pivot point of view. We've got the pivots once again, and on these crosses that have been going, pardon me. Well, I won't say, well, they were going gangbusters before the interest rate announcement, that's for sure. There you can see the effect of that, those three black crows coming in. Maybe there's a retest of that area at some stage as well. That area there, which seems to coincide with the weekly pivot. Yeah, I don't know if I'm that comfortable with my take profit level at the moment, really. I'm going to keep my eye on the daily pivot there today and see what price does and how it reacts off this. You can see that that's exactly where we have been, where we started the day, if you like. And I see this as a good candle, certainly the building of a good candle. But I may be a little bit ambitious in my take profit level. We'll see how we go. I see the monthly pivot and the daily pivot sandwich close together there. That's generally an indication that the market wants to consolidate, or even has consolidated. I suppose we're seeing that very much in the last 4 or 5 bars as well on the 4-hour chart. So whilst I'm happy to be in the short on a longer term, I'm just not sure we're not going to get a retest of this level yet. I don't know that that's going to hurt us, is it? Where's the candle? It's not going to hurt us, no, because our stop's still way up here. So I'm okay with that. if that
Right.
happens. In fact, I'm probably looking for that. Can we get back in is the question I'm asking. So can we scale in? Well, I'm still at risk here, so I probably won't be. But let's see if we can get that first take profit, then come back to it. That would be the ideal situation here. But you can see why I'm looking at that target. It is pretty much the left shoulder, if you like, over here. And if we can reach that happy days, we can make another assessment from there and maybe scale in, as I said, if we do get that retracement.
Yeah.
As far as the bigger picture is concerned, look at that.
Wow. I mean, that looks really quite telling, doesn't it? When you look at the big, we're looking at the weekly shooting star, followed by a spinning top, but a very negative looking spinning top. So we're just waiting really for what's going to happen this week, and we'll get to some news in a minute, just to see what might be driving or what might aid this one. I really like that first. Looks like your entry. I really like your entry level there.
Where did I enter? At level, I mean. I know what I entered on. It was on the daily chart, was it not? Yes. There's the entry there.
Yeah, it's got some lovely resistance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really, that's a barefaced potential change of polarity line right there.
Yep. That's
really
why we
like
wanted to trade it. But as I said earlier in the week, last week, we couldn't get in on the pound. We could only get in on pound yen. And unfortunately, we're out of that trade. Small, a profit, but I'd like to get back into it. And we'll go to that in a little while as well. But this one, to me, does look very bearish on the bigger picture. And for that reason, I'm more than happy to stay in. I might need to give this one a bit more room, however.
Yeah.
So I might have to keep the stops up where they are. And that's probably what I'm thinking at the moment. I'd probably prefer the stops to be above that swing or even above that swing.
Do you know what? I mean, I think it's one of those that if this can get going, then it depends how aggressive the selling is. But if the selling becomes quite aggressive, then there's always an option that you just trail behind yesterday's high.
Yeah, and that's what I'd like to do, but I need to see it get clear of this level first, I think.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I need to give it space till that happens.
Once that lower trend line as well.
It should fall away.
Yeah.
If that's the case. Angus is a little bit testy there. He's found somebody outside, I think, or it might be a wallaby bouncing past or something like that. So that's pretty compelling to me. I think,
that is.
Cable's a sell for the week.
If
there's a rally, to here, then I think that's probably a good selling opportunity if it does come along.
Yeah, like it.
If you're not already in. Speaking about bearish signs, we mentioned this last week as well. You couldn't be more, I guess, enthused about a bearish entry than this candle here. I wouldn't have thought on the bigger picture. That this is a daily chart, of course.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room to take profit down here before this potential bounce, which looks to have failed on the.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, we did like this one.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one at this moment, isn't it? But
look, if this candle, and I'm not sure if we actually mentioned this on Thursday when this big bear bar was forming.
Yeah.
If this candle had been decisive, and bullish, I know it's a little bit counterintuitive, but had it been decisive and bullish, I probably would have placed an order underneath this, and I'm still considering it, to be fair.
Yeah, and I can see why, because that's going to break down the monthly pivot and that low, isn't it?
Yeah.
And potentially a 4-hour trend line. I don't know what it would look like on a 4-hour, but probably. What chart is that? It's the daily. Yeah, it looks like a 4-hour trend line from below.
Yeah, there's a nice little line going up through there.
Yeah.
So that's broken down, and potential retest here as well. I see on the daily chart the false break of this area. We've broken that little, I suppose it's the intraday trend line, and it is. It comes off a 4-hour chart that you probably can't see there very well. It's a massive range that it went into after it broke this line. There's no question, but it's come back underneath it, and that's why it's a little bit tricky right now, because it's all over it. You know, it's not a clear indication. But on the daily chart, it is clear. It's broken this and retested both of the line and the pivot there. So the daily chart's the one that really does interest me.
Yeah.
The problem with it is, as I say, I would love that to have been decisive bar, and we're also trading straight into the left shoulder, and that's a bit of a concern. If we get our entry well below here, then I'm probably a fan, because there's plenty of room, say from there. You know, there's 90 odd pips here to get a profit out of, and then trail, I think.
I tell you what's quite interesting also about this chart is when you look at the monthly, it does suggest that you know, we would get some weakness on the short term, maybe for a week or two, where we get some battling going on. But actually, the monthly doesn't look too bad, does it? And that would suggest that if it starts to level off, there's every chance that we could start to rally from somewhere around this range.
Around here somewhere.
Yeah, well, just because we got you know, we are at a low end of a monthly support line. We got a spinning top. It doesn't look like it's turning around this week, maybe not even next week, but it looks like as the month goes on, there's every chance that this is going to, because it hasn't really attempted to get back to the high of the spinning top, is it?
No, it hasn't. That's true.
I mean, I like to see that at least once before failure. And especially at such a decent level of support. It looks like a decent level of support down here. So from what I can see, I would suggest that the first week or two would be quite telling of this, because if it's going to break down, I think it's probably going to be early doors rather than later in the month. So I'd quite like to see, you know, if it doesn't break down, does it give us a hold, and then potentially an area to buy up into the last couple of weeks of the month. And I tell you what would be really interesting is to pull some sort of seasonal indicator on the Aussie dollar, because that might give us an even clearer picture of the chance of this one holding.
Okay, we might do that a bit later. There's a very clear pattern here, though, isn't there? With 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Those spinning tops don't hold, do they? Or we haven't. This is the third one now. And actually, the previous one, it didn't test the highs. So
you know, interestingly, we've been in this descending channel all year, the entire year on the Aussie. It just hasn't been able to get out of that channel.
Yeah,
it's had a few cracks, but still unable to do so. And it's had two cracks in the last what, 2 weeks.
And you know, well, the other interesting thing, which we can't brush over in some respects, we are in the last quarter, and there is movement. You know, there is going to be movement, and very. It wouldn't be that surprising to see some of these actually start to turn around, because that's a pretty good shelf, even on the daily chart. Even on the daily chart, that level that we chose as where the right shoulder is, the right shoulder could be. It may be a little bit lower, because they are obviously the highs that trend line has been drawn from. Maybe we're looking at the close prices instead. No, I wasn't actually talking about the neckline. Sorry, not the neckline. Actually, the where the right shoulder. So where the other in there could be it could be even as deep as that, and it still be okay.
Yeah, Indeed. Yeah,
You know, that could
and
still be a decent right inverted right shoulder. So we might be looking for some downside, might be headed a little bit deeper, but that could be a turnaround pattern. And when we consider what we've just seen on the monthly, actually, you know, this could be a pretty compelling chart to try and buy into in the last couple of weeks of the month, or maybe even into November.
yeah, you're almost talking me into taking, but I'm not going to. It's just not ready for me.
What a dip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like this mess here, to be fair. And we're dead set on the monthly pivot as well on the 4-hour chart. I think maybe and we've got an interest rate announcement as well tomorrow. Don't forget.
Okay. Yeah, we need to get some news, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're probably here for today. And then the RBA statement comes tomorrow. That may be the time we find either here or here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'll wait till tomorrow on the Aussie. I'm just not ready for it. As I say, had that daily bar been more decisive, then I might have slipped the trade underneath it. But I think I'll leave it alone for now. So they're the three, mate.
Great.
Quickly, the pound yen. I'm still looking to get back into that because I still can't get over these. Although pound US dollar seems to be a far better conveyance now. I think the yen is a little bit weak, as we know, and I think the dollar's still got strength behind it on the fact that the interest rate was an interest rate rise, and I think that's probably why now I'm in pound US dollar and not pound yen.
Yeah, I mean, you got a reason, haven't you, with the pound US dollar? The thing with the pound yen is more about weakness of the pound rather than the strength of the yen. So probably not such good twins in a way.
True story, but I'll still look at it. It's a dominant chart pattern, and really we're only in consolidation here. So if I can trade maybe off resistance, then fine. I see the pivots very, very close together. That's always an indication that price wants to go toward them. And maybe on the 30-minute chart, there might be something during the session coming up. So we'll keep our eye on that. There may well be a trade down to this level if we can find a setup. So why not? Still some things to look at as we get into the show, mate.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, let me just give you a quick run of. Well, just of the FTSE, as always, let me give you a run of what we've got with the FTSE. So it's always worth looking at a monthly chart, just as we've just started a new month, and just to see what the candles and the support and resistance.
I forgot to give you a pinch and a punch.
Oh yeah, we could probably do that now on emojis, can't we?
This is day one, yeah.
Yeah. Day one. So so this is what we got. So we got primary trend line, and the primary trend line has held so far. It hasn't quite touched it, but it's probably close and close enough to not be too concerned whether it's going to come down. I think we get another dip, but maybe we don't. Maybe we do touch the trend line, but we don't come down to the lows. But I do think we're probably headed for at least one more dip down, maybe the first couple of weeks of October. Now, Julian was saying last week, and it's absolutely right. This is usually a very bullish time for the FTSE. For whatever reason, retail sales, Christmas coming, it's usually into October, right up to December and January, February time. That they tend to be very, very good months for the FTSE with some bumps in the road. So we are looking for upside. This is a spinning top. Now the guys, I think this is an Actions to Wealth low test bar as well. I think the guys would call it. So that's a fairly bullish signal. I'm not going to call it 100% bullish because we didn't end right on the highs. Now, when we go down,
the context isn't that awesome either, mate, is it? I mean, you like to see low test bars, or I like to see low test bars, if you like, at the bottom of a roll.
Absolutely,
so it becomes a hammer.
Your point is probably made almost here. That's a really good. That's a good hammer. Maybe maybe the level could be slightly better, but certainly when we kind of look along this area here, it looks like we've got that that area there for the hammer. So you're absolutely right. It doesn't really fill us with too much confidence when we see where it is, because it's not at this level, you know, and that would be a different bar entirely, you know, as you point out. We see it down here, then it would have different context. Interestingly, with the break of a primary trend line, the context would probably be just to grab back up to that trend line and then dip again. So so we'll see. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So the context isn't really there with that one. So it's fairly good, but we can't rely on it too much. So let's go down to the other time frames and see what they're telling us. And we have the weekly, and this bar is a hideous bar, really, because what's that telling me? You know, this one is on an area of interest. You know, we've got this area here that has provided support, broken through resistance, but that's a really bad bar. You know, that the body of this bar isn't tucked down enough to really give us a clear signal that this is going to sell off. And it's obviously, you know, it's not particularly bullish. So the point is, this needs to unwind a little bit more. You know, we don't have too much of a clear signal so far this week. We're going to stick with the upside, but it doesn't really tell us too much about direction for the week. So we can't be too confident about what we're going to do. This area has held as resistance so far. You know, we got an inside bar here. We got a look of a shooting star here, a look of a shooting star here, wiped out by this bullish bar, and then another harami here. So there is weakness up here. There is you know, signs and signals that we have weakness up here, but it's not really clear as yet. So we've got to let that message unfold. So we're going to stick with looking at intraday upside, and see what, you know, potential areas that could happen. Obviously, we're going to have a level along there. We're going to have a level along here, which is going to be kind of key. There are other levels as well that it comes down to. We're still going to be bullish right the way down here, and potentially even dipping a little bit further as well. So we've got to let it unfold. I'm not too worried about missing this open right now, because I think let's have a quick look at it anyway. I think we've got a little bit of time to wait with this one before we really get you know, a clear and decisive message on what we want to do. It did have a pretty aggressive sell-off, actually, not hugely, but a fairly aggressive sell-off into the end of last week and into the 27th and the 28th. Both days, you know, they did start to drift to the downside. But I suspect we're going to be just slightly in a holding pattern for a little while. So we can look down here. We can look down here. There is a potential for a head and shoulders pattern as well, which means that it's probably going to need to hold this level to give us a. Actually, that lower level will do. This lower level down here will do. So look at 74.50. If this is going to break down, 74.50 for a potential bounce area, and then maybe driving us back into that trend line. The other thing about this that we can't discount and discard is this is what we've got for the day today. Now, this is going to be quite key. Everything to do with the UK and the UK numbers and Brexit and everything else is quite key. So manufacturing PMI is forecast to miss 52.6%. Some of the numbers over here have been pretty good up to this point. When we look at the chart on manufacturing PMI, it's been dipping, but dipping less slowly than they thought would happen. So this was after 2016 Brexit announcement, and since then it's been pretty stable. So they are looking for it to dip, but let's see how bad that dip is. Now, if that was to happen, if we do get some sort of dip and a squeeze to the downside, the FTSE's likely to rally, but we can't really do anything until that number's out. So in some respects, I can't do a lot this morning. I've got to wait until that 9:30 number's out. I don't really want to trade into it. We're going to be very close to it. It's possible that we actually drift to this downside, but as long as we're holding down here, you know, but before those numbers come out, there's every chance that then we start to get a trade. Until then, you know, people can feel free to trade this down, but that's just not my preference. But if you're going to go in a direction, certainly early doors, you can see that this is looking pretty bearish. So, you know, to trade it from 76 down to 50 or down to 74.29 is going to be some people's flavor, but that's not something that I'm going to do. So that's what we got with the FTSE. Now, the other thing to recognize is that because of this weekly bar, this area down here becomes fairly significant, because at the minute this bar is a little bit confused. And if it breaks to the upside, there's going to probably be a flurry of activity. If it breaks to the downside, the same thing's going to happen, which you know, it puts even more power onto this 74.49 as a potential level. Now, it doesn't have to get there today. That might be the 74.49 might be something that we look for even tomorrow. But you can see maybe a little bit more clearly that this could become left shoulder, head, maybe right shoulder, and then we're looking for a little bit of downside, or we look for to hold that that particular pattern. But it's worth looking at these patterns, even just for what other market makers might try and carve out, even if it fails. You know, that's the thing about some of these patterns. We're not necessarily looking for them to work out. We're just looking for them to give us some structure of what price might do. So that's where we're at, mate. We're just gonna sit and wait basically for the first hour and a half, which is not going to be something that people are going to want to hear necessarily. But I wouldn't be getting into this market until there's an opportunity, a true opportunity.
Fair call, mate. I did put a seasonal indicator on the Aussie. You want to have a look at it?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Okay. I've gone to 10 years for some reason, just because it makes me feel good, I suppose. Is there a season that we're particularly looking at in terms of...
your screen was there and it was gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How now?
Ah, that's better. All right, let's have a look. So it does dip, and then it looks like it picks up. When's that pick up?
Looks like around about... The peak's at the 11th of this month. Sorry, October. Where are we now? October.
We're October, yeah.
So the 9th it starts to rally.
Awesome. So we are looking at potentially 2 weeks for the seasonal indicator to start to look into it. So I think that's pretty compelling. You know, we start to get some sort of chart pattern around that time, because it looks like it goes into a bit of a hold then for...
Before this?
No, does it? How long does it hold for?
After that.
Yeah.
After the peak, you've got... Oh, well, you can take it wherever you like.
I mean, how far forward can you go? Can you go a few months ahead?
I think so. Well, when does it work on a weekly chart? Probably not. No. Okay. Let me just go a little bit wider. No, it doesn't look like it.
No. Okay. So we only get... Oh yeah, it's going, is it? So we don't get that long. Oh yeah. Does that keep unfolding?
I don't think I can get it any further.
That's okay, actually, because that dip. When does that dip? That really the next dip happen? So it picks up and then we get a dip.
That's about there.
Yeah.
26th
of October.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So actually, it's not a very strong month.
No, you've only got that one little rally, really.
Yeah.
The little one in here.
Well, that's gonna be a tough one to trust wholesale, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're probably looking still looking for me like we're here,
Yeah,
and then not sure.
yeah, I think you're
You
absolutely right.
maybe trade it back to here, and then then it holds. But that's fine. That'll go into a bit of a range then, if that's the case.
Yeah,
And I like ranges, as you know, so
yeah,
that might provide a few opportunities to bounce off the top of here and down to the bottom.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That would be okay. I mean, and I think that.
Sorry, I wonder what the price of oil is going nuts as we talk. I don't know
Right.
as we talk,
Okay.
but it certainly has been. That's going to have an impact on a few. Whoa.
Do you know what? I can let me bring up some news. I need to run down and get another device. Where is the oil price? Let me just have a quick look at that before I go. Brent. Yes, I see. Oh, do you know what? That is kind of interesting because I did see the pound CAD. So what's happened to the dollar CAD then?
Yeah, the cattle be going nuts.
The CAD is going nuts. The dollar is tanking against the CAD. Everything's tanking against the CAD. It seems. Okay, we need to find out what this is about. Let me go and get to my other device, and you got the screen, haven't you?
I don't know. I can't.
No, I
I've
think
lost
I've got it.
everything.
Let me give you the screen.
Ah, that's better. Okay. Radio. I can use that one. All right, should have me back.
Yeah, I'll be 2 shakes. I just got to go and get my other device, and we'll plug in and have a listen in the background.
I'll just see if I've got anything to get interested in at the moment. Kind of interested in that bar, but I also am not going to trade into the low of the day. As I told you last week, trading into the high of the day is a no-no, and trading into the low of the day is exactly the same. So I'm not going to take that short at this point in time. We'll have to wait a little bit for that. Maybe if price gets over to here, we can do something about that, but not at this point. That's for sure. So that's the pound, sorry, that I'm looking at, and I am short the pound, as you can see, but I'm also okay to get back into it. I think there's probably a story to be had in the pivots here today, with the daily pivot and the monthly pivot very close together. I don't know that we're going to see too much movement, but anything could happen, of course, at any time. The euro, same here. There's no way I can trade this short into these levels. It's tough to get interested on this cross, to be fair, where price currently is. If I go to the 4-hour chart and have a good look at that, you can see we're approaching this low again. Impossible for me to trade into that on an intraday chart. So I need price to pull back before I get interested in trading the euro at all. Let's have a look at the Aussie on the smaller time frames. Haven't really done that yet. Certainly we can see the daily and the bigger picture. We might want to expand that out. There we go. So you can see the range that we've been following probably since we fell away on Thursday, and we've had another look at the high. We've come down to the low, the monthly pivot. Don't see anything that's really interesting here either, to be fair. It is Monday, tends to be a slow day. Maybe a false break, maybe a break and retest of this confluence area. Something like that might get me interested in. Probably happy to trade back to the top here. And I'm certainly not happy to trade short at the moment. So maybe that's the go here. Let's see what happens if we get priced into the daily pivot area. And finally, that pound yen that we're still waiting to get back into short. You can see the double rejection here of the weekly pivot, and that's why we headed north. We've got a trend line sitting there that we're preying on, and if that gets some action, we might find a trade there as well. I'd really like to see this hit this level here and come back underneath the trade line. If it did that, the trend line, trade line, if it did that, then I may get interested in trading this short. I think I did mention that earlier. That's pound yen. So that's where I'm at, but no entries there for us at the
You're
moment.
just going to wait for a little while. Let me quickly show you something on the FTSE.
Yep.
FTSE 100 is currently putting in a pretty interesting looking bar right now. I mean, we have to look at the 15 because that's obviously going to be the first bar that's going to pass. But all of them are obviously going to look the same at this stage. But we were talking about the hammer before, and this is a hammer. You know, so far we've got another few minutes to wait. But this is going to be quite interesting to see what this does here. Now that doesn't really mean that we can change our sentiment on when we trade this, because it's going to be hard to pick anything up until we get that news and that data out. But it certainly suggests that if this hammer turns, if this hammer actually ends up forming, that we do end up getting a push into at least here. Now, that means that's 17, maybe 18 pips, you know, to the upside for a first point of rejection, but a whole 40 to the downside. So it's not an attractive proposition, but certainly there might be something even shorter term that might be tradable at this particular point, because there is a little trend line down here on the 5-minute chart as well. When we look here,
whichever way you look at it, certainly not happy down there, is it?
No, it's not. No, it's not. Which is absolutely fine, you know. And the FTSE is interesting to me, because I think that we do have some bumps in the road, maybe before we really start to pick back up again. And I would like to see the FTSE weaken, but you know, oftentimes when the FTSE is in an uptrend, which it is, you know, it's managed to kind of start extending its legs again to the upside. When we look at this on a 4-hour chart, it does struggle to break down. You know, it's rare that it will just kind of go all the way up and all the way back down again. Usually you'll get some sort of holding pattern while people make decisions, and oftentimes it will break again to the upside, and that may well end up being the case. But the case for a range here is kind of compelling. So let's see what happens with this bar. It's gonna need to do a lot of work to break down in the next 10 seconds. So let's have a look, see what it is. So it looks like this is going to be alerting buyers. So that's now alerted the buyers into this market. It would probably, you know, we probably need to see it break the high end of the hammer, but the only way that we can trade it from this point is on a short-term time frame, unless it dips all the way back down again. Because if it dips down, then these areas down here actually become buying opportunities. If it dips down here, that would be a buying opportunity, much more attractive proposition, because you've got the stop to take profit area now at a 2-to-1. So it dips down here and gives us a buy signal. Then it's an opportunity. That the difficulty, as I said before, is going to be about the manufacturing numbers. You know, we got a news event coming out. The only thing is that we've seen that that news event is currently forecast to be lower. So that means that that could well put the pound under some pressure. And if the pound's under some pressure, that would normally mean that the FTSE could actually be more of a buying opportunity. So let's have a quick look at the pound dollar and see what's being suggested right now with that. Well, the first 15 minutes of the pound dollar is a spinning top, and it's not in a particularly good area, but it does make it very, very difficult to ascertain what we're going to do. This is another tricky pattern. Now, when we see this, yeah. Yeah, this is interesting. They would need to break through here. We may well get an explosive move. I'm just listening into the to the news in the background, and the news is talking about sterling, and they're talking about the fact that the driver, forgetting manufacturing numbers, if we think about sterling on the longer term, you're talking about potential sterling dollar shorts, and the guy is making a case for that too.
Good man. Tell him he's a nice chap.
Yeah, he's effectively saying that that the lack of progress with the deal is going to be a potential driver, and it was, sterling is a fascinating trading opportunity, really, because they thought that the trading negotiations were going really well, so it started to move to the upside. Now we start to get the whispers that the negotiations are going badly again, and it starts to drift to the downside. This has got a lot to do to settle. It's going to take a long time before we get some settling down, and I suspect it might even be right up to the wire next year, right up to March, because that they've got to do the deal by November. Now, if that deal's not done, the next probable path for sterling is going to be or for the UK economy is probably going to be a vote in Parliament about whether firstly, the EU have to accept the deal. Then after that, there's going to be a vote in Parliament about what they do with the deal. Do they crash out on WTO rules? Do they go back and negotiate? Or well, the other option is to have another referendum, but that isn't currently on the potential cards for the current ruling party. But if they don't get the deal, and they don't get and the other option is that we crash out, there's a possibility we could even get a general election. And that's also going to be difficult for sterling. We see a general election, there's going to be more uncertainty. That also leads us up to March. Now, all this has to be done by March. If by November we get an indication that they haven't done a deal, sterling will very, very likely not only move to the downside, but aggressively move to the downside, because that puts the whole thing into complete uncertainty. We get a vote in Parliament that is voted out, and they potentially go for a no-deal Brexit. That's going to make it tank even further. We then get a general election. That's going to make it weaken even further. Probably not so aggressively, but it will probably make it weaken even further. We get a Labour government. Who knows what happens at that point? Because the Labour government have been touted as as anti-business. So there's every chance that a Labour government could weaken the pound in the interim, but then if they call for that second referendum, then maybe we start to see some strengthening. So at this particular juncture, things don't look too hot for sterling. Things don't look too good for the pound.
Did you give us a case there where there's sunshine or blue sky anytime soon?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. It's very difficult to make a case for blue skies with sterling, because the uncertainty going into the deal in the first place is going to be one aspect of it. But while that uncertainty actually errs on the side of no progress, that's going to be that's again going to be very, very difficult period for the pound and the UK economy. So the only thing that could start to kind of give this a little bit of bullish sentiment is if the European Union start to budge a little bit. Theresa May's got more meetings coming up. We're in October now. We've got the summit, I think, in 2-3 weeks. I can't remember exactly. Let's have a quick look at what we got, and this will potentially help shape sterling. But you know what these might do? These might give opportunities, because if sterling now today breaks the forecast, and this starts to move to the upside, that's a selling opportunity. We got to think about the bigger picture, just like we do with the charts. The big picture right now is that there is uncertainty, and the big picture right now is that the uncertainty errs on the side of no progress. So with no progress, that means no deal at this current stage. or a huge potential for no deal at this current stage. That's all we can really look at. We can only look at the potential binary of no deal or or an exception of checkers, which is the current deal on the table, and the current deal on the table is not likely to get through. So no deal starts to become a fairly more of an obvious path. So manufacturing PMI could create selling opportunities if sterling goes to the upside. Let's see what else we got. RBA statement tomorrow. So you're in a potential Aussie trade that could be a tricky one, I guess.
Yeah, not really that keen to get in at this point. Generally, you find that with the RBA statement, there is a bit of a whipsaw no matter what happens. It's never that substantial, unless, of course, there's a disparate with the expectation versus the actual.
Yeah.
I don't like to be in a short-term trade, that's for sure, when the RBA statement comes, or any in general.
Yeah.
Interest rate or Reserve Bank statement comes out. It's not a great plan, I don't think, to be on the short time frame.
Okay, so
nobody's expecting it to rise. The RBA have said that the next one will be a rise, the next rate movement, but they're not really forecasting that to happen till next year, even into 2020. So nobody's expecting anything any different to what we've already heard from the last.
So what might be the opportunity with the Aussies is if it holds, then there might be some sellers that continue to come in. The FTSE 100. Look at this now. Look at this bar now. This is the half hour. This is going to be a really interesting looking bar. Services PMI on Wednesday. Another potential selling opportunity. All I'm seeing right now is potential selling opportunities. Selling opportunity on Wednesday for the pound. Thursday we get no news and data, and on Friday we get no news and data. So that's the week currently right now. It looks like maybe they wait. Monday's always a really interesting day because we tend to have our political shows over a weekend, and this weekend we had the Prime Minister on our political show, and also Boris Johnson kind of causing stirs. It is the Conservative Party conference this week. And that is something going on in the background that people need to be aware of, because it's the Conservatives that are negotiating the deal. They've obviously got many other things to cover. They are not taking care of the economy right now. The work that's being done is being markedly ignored. The work that needs to be done is being markedly ignored because of Brexit, because of everything to do with Brexit. But the Conservative conference will be an interesting conference because they have to mention Brexit. They have to get to Brexit. It is it's the issue of our times. It's the issue of the day is Brexit.
Yeah, it's not like it's not an agenda item, is it? It's just got to be.
This is the thing, that they can talk about anything else that they need to mention about building more homes, about taking people off the streets for trying to tackle homelessness, the NHS. Transport. There's all these other issues that are currently a hangover for the country, but because we've got nothing going on with Brexit, then it's making the whole thing pretty tricky, really, to kind of ascertain what's going to happen. So it's going to be interesting.
Sorry, mate. I thought you finished.
No, only to say that it's going to be an interesting week for the pound, and we might see movements in the pound that people don't understand. But if you look into the background, then you might start to find that it's because of specific announcements that are made at the Conservative Party conference.
Is there anything crazy on the calendars there that looks like an anomaly? And that's what we tend to look at is previous versus forecast. And if there's a big difference between previous and forecast, generally that interests me.
Great point.
I like to see if there's something that we can trade into there. If there is a big difference, I don't see anything there at the moment. But
no. Spanish manufacturing PMI has been a miss. This one's also quite interesting because look how that one's climbing down.
Yeah.
You know, this one's starting to climb down as well. So manufacturing PMI, so the purchasing managers index of things that are made effectively. So Spain now, I don't know enough about the Spanish economy to know where their main source of GDP is created. It's not like Germany that you know that the Germans make cars. Their manufacturing industry is very, very strong. With Spain, I'm not 100% sure what, you know, with the UK, really services is the big thing. You get a bad services number, then that really does affect the economy. When it comes down to manufacturing for Spain, it's difficult to know. But you know, we do want to be aware. I know this is only a yellow number. Why it's only a yellow number, I'm not really sure, because you know, if you compare the manufacturing PMI in Spain as a yellow number and manufacturing PMI in the UK as a red number, I'm not sure why there's such a disparity, and maybe it's because it's maybe not such an important metric for Spain.
I think, yeah, in the scheme of things, what happens to Spanish manufacturing in terms of euro movement is probably historically, you know, not such an important event.
Sorry, but interesting. But we
listening to us, of course, but
yeah,
you know, that's the reality.
But we often brush over it, don't we, with these yellow numbers? But actually, it's these yellow numbers, the yellow folders, that make up the bigger picture. Oftentimes, you know.
Look, if there's a big disparity, then absolutely the market looks at it very, very quickly.
And there's a lot of red here. Now, I don't know what that necessarily starts to tell us. Finding manufacturing PMI in Japan was a miss. So far, retail sales in Germany was a miss. The Swissy retail sales was a hold. Spanish manufacturing was a miss. You know, I'm not sure what this number's going to end up being. But then we've got Italian PMI, French PMI, German PMI. These are all quite interesting numbers. If these all end up being a miss, is it actually giving us an indication of what's going on out there in the world economy? Who knows? I mean, you know, I'm not sure, as I say, how important it is, but there seems to be a lot of manufacturing numbers today, and it's going to be interesting to see how they tend to unfold. And see if you know, what that's telling us about the economics of the world. This looks pretty good.
Yeah, just got new bars now, and interestingly, the pound's rallying at the same time.
Let's have a look at the pound. See when that is yeah. So the pound is. And as I say, all these are a selling opportunity, but the interest with the pound for me is there could be an expectation of the manufacturing to beat rather than miss. But that is, you know, that's the first 15 minutes of the day, the first half hour of the day, so it's only relevant for a very short period. Interesting to see what the next bar is, because the thing about the next bar is that this could be a breakout, next bar could be a hold, and then the next bar could be an absolute tank, depending on what that number is. But yeah, they are both moving to the upside at equal times, aren't they? Just not a safe time to trade, though, you know.
I haven't got a setup, so I'm not thinking about entering the market, but that interests me, the fact that they are rallying. I'd like to see them hit a resistance level before I started thinking jumping in short. But that's the first thing that I do think of, like you. It's a buying opportunity.
Yeah.
Sorry, selling opportunity perhaps on the way.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a few levels that do interest me, but we're a long way from them at the moment.
We've got. Yeah, we got the news feeds are all in Birmingham for the Conservative Party conference this week. I've got one ear on the news because I'm still trying to find out what went on with the CAD.
There was something with the CAD. What was that? I did hear.
Did they do some deal with America?
NAFTA, that's right. North American Free Trade Agreement.
Okay.
I think that's gone through. Yes.
Okay.
So that coupled with the rising oil price, I think the CAD's just going nuts for that reason.
Right.
That's right.
I did actually see that there was a potential setup dollar CAD on the daily when we kind of look at this. It's another head and shoulders pattern there, and looks like that right shoulder might well have been on a trend line as well. Not a bad bar. This is interesting though. This daily bar here is it did actually kind of end up looking to push this price down, but it's not a really strong resistance bar. But what happened after that was certainly a strong reaction. Now, if I bring this FTSE 100 back in, and we look at this on the weekly, I think that we can argue that this is the same kind of looking bar here. So interesting that I wouldn't trust this one.
Why is that, obviously,
I mean, I wouldn't trust this one. I think NAFTA replacements that includes Mexico. Could be relief for Canada exports of Toyota and Honda. Yeah, interesting. The difference, I think, is the reversal pattern that we see with the CAD here, because even though the bars look the same, this has got a point of resistance here. It's got a point of resistance here, and even a potential for that to start looking like a. Well, it's not really a head and shoulders that clean, but certainly a reversal pattern. So that one's a little bit different. But I wouldn't trust the one on the FTSE. I think the FTSE is much more likely to ease up rather than down.
So are you still looking on track for a trade in an hour now?
Yeah, we do, because the thing is, the way that I'm going to look at this is I will look at this as a flag that that there is strength here. The difficult thing is that that there is a trade, there is a short-term trade that can be taken, and that short-term trade would certainly be likely at this stage to actually get up to these areas. But I just can't justify the stops. So it's one thing me picking a direction, and one thing me sort of like saying let's get in here, but I can't justify the stops. I wouldn't put it down here anyway. I could put it down at this point, but there's still no room. There's still no room really to kind of like to get even a 1-to-1 at this stage. But this market is very unlikely to come back before touching this point. At this particular stage, it looks pretty good. There is a little bit of resistance here, as we can see on the short term, but that little bit of resistance is more likely to provide a dip, so people can get back in again. But there hasn't really been an opportunity with this one. But yes, possible. The only other thing that I may consider is on a 5-minute chart. I might consider that. If it comes back down here and maybe starts to carve something out, I might consider that. But it would still have to be in an hour, and this is maybe not an issue. It's not a problem. This line would be of interest to me if we're down here around about 9:30, 9:35. If we're down here and we're starting to kind of stabilize, then I would take a trade to the upside. But we're very, very close to news, we're very close to data, and I'd prefer to let that data pass than get caught into something. And it's not that I don't think that it might get up here before data. I think there's every chance and a high probability that it will get up here before we get the release. But but I know from trading multiple times before news that it's better to wait. You know, it's often better to wait than get dragged into something, and it, you know, I just end up kind of getting quite frustrated with myself for not waiting, even though, as I say, I may miss a few. The ones that I miss don't pay for the ones that I get into. I'm not sure if I usually get such a strong bar. That's the only other thing. I don't usually get such a strong bar, and maybe there's a bit of filtering that can be done. But I think as a general rule, I prefer to wait than get in. So I haven't really got anything I can do for at least 53 minutes, 52 minutes.
It's not the end of the world, is it? If you have to wait that long, it's not a massive
No,
deal.
not at all. No, I'm here to make money. Obviously, over the weekend, we were talking about other aspects we can bring in,
Yeah.
and something that I was quite interested in is some stocks. You know, actually having a look at some stocks, because I wonder whether some of the other or even we could try it with foreign exchange, but I wonder whether some of the other information that people would benefit from is how to read fundamentals.
Look, I've got absolutely no doubt about that, and you know, we're kidding ourselves if we think that fundamentals don't have an effect on us. Not necessarily day to day, but you know, inside a week, it'd be very rare if there's not a fundamental, even off a normal week or calendar such as you're looking at.
Yeah,
that there's not an event that's going to shape the market in one way or another.
Yeah.
And of course, there are events that take place that we can't know about or control. Certainly, we can't control most of them. But the ones that do happen outside of our scope of knowledge, I suppose, are pretty much unavoidable. But the ones that we can look at are, as I say, within a week. Generally, there's going to be one or two that make a whole difference to a currency or an indice or whatever it is. There'll be a difference from before the news to after the news. And if we can actually master the way that we approach those announcements, whether we're trading into them or out of them, I think that's a far better approach, to trading fundamentals than it is to trade at the fundamental time where the fundamental shift will take place. It's very, very tough to catch those moves, very tough indeed. And the primary reason for that is because the brokers have free reign to put their spreads as wide as they possibly want. There's absolutely no rule around that. So, you really are playing a battle, or I used to call it pissing in the wind, but I won't swear on radio or wherever we are on YouTube. But you're pushing uphill or swimming against the tide. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
If you're trying to trade at news time, it's a very difficult proposition. And look, I know there are people who've got methods, and maybe they're even successful, but I haven't found a way, and I've found many, many ways to lose at news time. Trading into and out of news, I think, completely different stories, but trading at news time are really, really tough. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think we should develop that, over the course of the next 10 years or so, while we're sitting here, and see if we can actually find a way to trade news without trading at news time. If that makes sense.
Do you know, the way I see it is that if you trade after the news event, but you know the direction that you want already, I think the news can create some really good pricing opportunities. So, for example, if we know that we want to be trading the pound to the downside, then what we're looking for is an opportunity to for that to happen. What's that on my chart there? Is an opportunity for that to happen. Now, what's our price point on the pound? And we'd want to do the same thing as we always do. I think that we look along, try and get some potential levels here. That looks like a fairly good point for a neckline, and then I'd want to see that particular area tested. Make sure there's nothing else. There's going to be a lot of A lot of possibilities here. What's going on here?
Yeah, there's a lot of potential resistance that you can use here.
Yeah, it's finding the right one, isn't it? Let's see if we can get a confluence area with the pound and see what we got. Oh, okay. 1.3084.
Yeah, you're very close to where I am. I'm at 1.3082.
Okay. Was that your entry?
No, my
That's something
entry
else.
Where was my entry? Daily chart.
Yeah, that area looks pretty
7.2.
good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. 1.3072.
Yeah, this is starting to look pretty compelling, actually. I think this area and this area needs the closest consideration. All right, what is that? The lower line looks like it may well be more significant here. Yeah, I mean, it looks good, doesn't it? So, to my mind, we are looking for a selling opportunity around anything between 1.3083 and 1.3108. So somewhere in this area, I think we basically have a sell zone, and I would use this as an area to try and mine in. You know, after that that data's been released. I don't think it's. I mean, it might tip a little bit higher, but somewhere sort of in here, it looks to me like we could have a look to see whether when that data gets released, whether there's going to be an opportunity.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. I think my area is around about the 130.82 mark, as I said, and I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
And I'm basing that on a 4-hour chart.
So you're 130.80.
Yeah, 130.82. I've got it.
Let me pass you the screen so you can show me. I'm trying to dig around and.
Okay. That one's the one we want.
Oh, how I missed that. Oh, no.
So let me get rid of a couple of these intraday lines here. So we've got weekly pivot here.
Yep.
We've got this swing here, and we've got this swing here, this swing here. That'll do me in recency terms. So I'm tending to go a little bit more conservatively, and I'm going into these bodies. Then guess what that is? The 3 black crows. That's where it closed.
Yeah.
So that's that level bang on this week's weekly pivot. This trend line that's been broken. So a back test happens here, if you like.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that we've had all this support and resistance as well. So I've got 3 strong things there that are giving me that level as the bounce point. So that's pretty close to where you're at as well, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mean, I've kind of picked out more of a zone, but I like the fact that you've got something that's a little bit more precise. But I think that's a really good way to do it. So when we think about this as the day, we have to sort of effectively say that the selling opportunity on the pound is going to be somewhere. If anybody's confused about how to draw the lines, then it's going to be somewhere around about that weekly pivot. So what's the number on the weekly pivot?
Yeah, 130.82.
130.82. So I think the way that my day is going to shape today is that I'm going to be looking for in the next 45 minutes the pound to spike forward around that particular area and see what selling opportunity there is. And everybody's going to have to be aware that you know, you're going to have to be quick, because it's unlikely that it's going to hang around and give you a nice gentle pattern there to get into. It's unless you trade the way that that you trade, actually, Jeff. Because if you do it where you can enter, you know, after seeing a signal on a bar, so you can enter at the low of a bar, then it might give you an opportunity. I suppose the danger for you is that that bar ends up being too big.
Yeah, look, it'll give me a few opportunities here, I think. But you know what this level also is? It's the you're wrong point as well.
Yeah.
So if we were to break this level, I don't want to trade this short.
Yeah.
Until they hit some resistance again.
Yes.
So to me, you know, our analysis is wrong for the time being if we get a close above this level.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll be definitely looking at this area. There's no question when we get here, and probably not on a 4-hour chart. I'll probably dig down into a 30-minute chart and then have a look and see what I've got here, because I'll have something completely different to what you're seeing on this chart. Because there'll be, I mean, this won't go straight here today. Or if it does, happy days. But I can't see that happening. If it does, fine. Then there'll probably be something across here in a shorter time frame that I can have a look at, and that'll create a confluence here as well, and that'll give me more reason. You know, there'll be more resistance here than currently there is, and that'll be fine. But as I say, if it goes and this level is broken to the upside, this then for me will probably be an opportunity to trade to resistance, which is in the first case here, and I'd be happy with that.
I mean, what if you get a whip up there and it breaks through, but then it comes almost straight away, it's refused even before we get to the other resistance area? Would that still be something that you would consider?
Oh, as long as it doesn't close above here.
Yeah.
It can poke through there. That's no problem at all. In fact, that's good.
Yeah.
that then tells us a story that tells us it doesn't want to get back above here.
Yeah.
So that probably, even depending on how big the candle is, which is what you said before, that will probably give you an opportunity.
Yeah.
If that's the case. If it just slowly creeps up here, it becomes less enticing.
Oh, completely, yeah, and I think that would be a tricky trade too. I mean, I think what's interesting here is that that there is a consideration that that we want to trade this one short, but there are going to be people out there that are trading this intraday that are going to be trading right up into that area.
Absolutely. I mean, look where we are. You know, we've got a confluence of pivots here. We've got a strong support and resistance level. There's no question. So there's no surprise that we're seeing a rally here. That's exactly what we want to see. You know. It's what the doctor ordered, because it's too tough to trade short here.
Yeah, and if we think about the psychology as well with this, that the pound has poked through a trend line. And news makes moves. So if news makes moves and the pound has poked through a trend line, it seems like a fairly a kind of obvious strategy to try and trade it back up to that area when there's a news announcement due. Because if the news announcement goes in people's favor, then as long as they get a decent enough price from down here, if it goes in their favor and it goes above those price points, then they're going to look to hold, and they're going to look to hold at, say, at a significant low. If it doesn't, then they can take profit, because they would already have managed to get a trade from this point right back up again. And I think when we think about the psychology of news, the question always is about why would it not get drawn back to a magnetic point just before that news announcement? Why wouldn't there be some speculation? Because everybody knows about the false breakout theory. So if you've managed to get a breakout, why wouldn't there be the potential for that breakout to be false just before a news announcement, and creating a decent opportunity? And for that reason, I think there are going to be intraday traders that are going to be quite happy to at least attempt to buy this back up into that monthly pivot. And there's a strategy right there that people will be trying to follow.
Yeah, look, and further to that point, the reason that this is likely to happen before a news event is twofold. It's exactly what you just said, but it's also because these guys here who are short are trading into a news event and they don't want to lose what they've already got. So they're not going to pour more into the market here. They're probably going to take profit here.
Yeah.
And wait for that news announcement.
Absolutely.
They mightn't take everything off the table because there's a chance the news could go with them, of course.
Yeah.
But most definitely, and in my humble opinion, the most beneficial and long-term viable way to trade this short, if you are short here and there is a news announcement coming, is it to do exactly what you would expect here and take profit.
Yeah.
Take something off the table. And what's that going to do? When you're selling, what's a bailout? It's a
bailouts are buys, aren't they? Yeah. So they turn into buy orders. And the other thing is, if they've managed to kind of get a low swing, then their consideration is, I'll just get right back in where I got in originally.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
and I mean, here's the shot over the bow right here.
Yep. Yep.
This candle, when was that? Friday, late Friday.
Yeah.
You can see what's coming right there. You probably don't want to jump into it, but now you're seeing this happen. There's news coming. It's not a bad ploy. I agree with you, and I've got a strategy to trade that also. On the shorter time frames.
Yeah.
And all I need to see are a couple of things. That one there's the first of them. It's a reversal bar, or those three candles are reversal.
Yes, geez, that's a solid old morning star, yeah.
Absolutely. So what you're waiting for after that is a retracement on this move, and giving you a solid higher low. I don't think, frankly, there's a higher low there to trade. That's consolidation for me. It's not a good retracement. So it's not a great trading opportunity. But that's exactly what I'd be looking for. Something like that.
Yeah.
With a stronger retracement. Although, having said that, the retracement in size is probably quite good. It's probably around about 50% on this move. So it's not a bad place to be looking for a long. I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's certainly food for thought. For us, because if that gets up to that monthly pivot, then we can see a strategy in working in live action effectively. Because all we're really trying to do with the market is obviously pick direction, but pick psychology and pick some timing. And there's no easier time to get into a trade than news, because there's going to be volatility. So as long as you can pick a strategy that works around that particular point, then you've got something. And I would suggest that into the next half an hour from this point, we start to buy up, and it'd be interesting to see what happens after that. I mean, my particular strategy at this point would be, go in at 0.5%, 1%, something like that, but then take off probably a good 4/5 of it, or at least 3/4. Get the profit, get the stop to break even, and then see what happens. See if it explodes and goes in your area, goes in your direction. Because if you've managed to get in down here, that is a fantastic price. So and that's the way that I would manage the money. I would leave the tiniest bit on the table, but take the main bulk of profit before getting back up there.
And these are the things to look for. Make sure you've got a reversal pattern. You might have a double bottom. You might have, as you've got here, what do you call that? Morning star.
Yeah, Morningstar.
You've definitely got a bullish engulfing bar, even.
And there's a bullish, and the third bar of the Morningstar is the bullish engulfing, which is a massively positive signal.
Absolutely. You know, this would have been impossible for me to trade at this level because of two reasons. I'm trading straight into the high of the day, and I'm trading straight into these pivots. So really, really hard to trade. But now it's not. If in particular, if this retraces and captures that level again, this pivot level and this high, that would be a reasonable entry to take for me. You know, down here somewhere.
You know what's great for you as well, because you're already in this trade short. You could actually use it as a hedge. So if it goes in the opposite direction, and you know what would maybe be even better is using it as a hedge, but on another currency, because you might find you win out on both of them.
You may well. Maybe pound yen is the way to go.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it is. What's happening with pound yen? Is that buying up?
Because the yen is weak, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. Geez, I mean that's a very interesting chart, isn't it? Because it's breaking out now, and if that pattern that you've drawn is the one that's being traded, then there's a heck of a move to the upside.
Again, you know, bullish engulfing bar here, higher low, and now another higher low.
Yeah,
interesting way to trade.
Well, I think we're about to shut up, aren't we, mate? I don't know what I don't know if you've got more that you want to discuss.
Yeah, look, I better give what I'm actually going to look for in the next little bit.
Yeah, let's do that.
The euro is going to be a bit tough, I've got to say, because I can't go short here. I can't trade into these lows. That's too hard from this level anyway. So I need another resistance area from which to trade. Maybe the daily pivot's it. As I said, it was a move from the daily pivot to price rather than price to the daily pivot. So you're actually expecting, I'm expecting another test of the daily pivot, and that looks likely. Until that happens, very, very tough for me to trade short, and I can't trade long from here either, whilst ever the daily pivot's in the way. So I'm a little bit hamstrung here, and as I said, it is Monday. I'm not really expecting that much movement. Perhaps we're going to just bump around either side of the daily pivot, and that wouldn't be unusual or unexpected. The rally continues on the pound. As I said, no way I could trade this into the pivots. I need to see this pull back now. If it does pull back, then I think that's a great buying opportunity off the back of these. You might even see on an hourly chart the good old DC, the double cross. You can see
nice,
beautiful break. So if we get on the hourly chart a bearish bar that comes across here now and closes below those pivots, entry above it, and wherever you want to take your profit, take your profit. Certainly take your profit before the weekly pivot here. Some profit, get something off the table. And that was the level we spoke about, 130.82. You can take most of it off here, I think, because I think here it becomes a great selling opportunity. So if there is a trade to take here, that would probably be it for me if we get the double cross happening here. So long above that bar. The Aussie quickly. Yeah, look, I think I'd like to trade this short. I'd like to see this level break and find this green line, the 72.24 level, then poke its head back underneath both, and a back test of this confluence area, trend line and daily pivot. So above here, find resistance, back underneath, and retest the level. That gives me a license to go short. Again, taking profit at support. And finally, pound yen, getting to a point. I'm not keen on pound yen short right now, I've got to say. I think pound US dollar short I'm okay with, but I don't think I'm that interested in pound yen short. This may look for another high, certainly on this intermediate level. So no, I'm not too keen on trading that short. I guess same as I said on the pound with the retrace, if that comes back and gives us don't see a double cross available, but if it comes back and gives us a bear bar now, I think, yeah, I'd like to see it retest this level, the first resistance level in confluence with the backside of that trend line. That might be interesting. You'd want to take profit before these highs, though. That would be a trade for me. I'd be happy with that. Right. So pound yen, if they come back to those levels, I'm happy to go long, mate.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm not expecting a whole lot of movement on the euro today. So I think I'll probably be leaving that one alone. Maybe the Aussie the same. But if it does give me that false break of this trend line and a retest, I'd be happy to trade short.
Great.
So that's about me.
Okay. Well, I think for me, just for me, I think I'm going to be looking for the long still with the FTSE 100. I think the FTSE 100 is a really interesting looking chart so far this morning, just because we've had such a solid looking bar to start with. But it does actually, the hourly ended up being a spinning top, which is also interesting in itself. So I wouldn't be trading before, and I think making the decision not to trade before the news and data has been the correct one, because it hasn't really kind of managed to get any juice. The head and shoulders still looks to me like it's in play, so I'm going to look for that neckline as a possible buying opportunity. If it doesn't get to that point, then I'm going to be looking at a buying opportunity to. In actual fact, I'm probably more interested down here. So 74.50, I'm going to wait and see if there's an opportunity, and if there is, then I'm going to look for the long in the FTSE 100. So not until 9:30 though. So anything after 9:30, I'm going to be looking for moves to the upside.
All right, mate. Let's hope they deliver, and let's hope there's a setup there for you.
Awesome. Okay, mate. Well, let's shut up shop and